As we quickly approach tax time, as a business owner, you should be excited. This is the time of the year where you get to reset, start from scratch, reset all those goals, and hopefully smash them and continue to improve your business and your overall financial situation. However, there are a few key tax things you should be thinking about before the end of the financial year. First, we want to look at tax planning. Have you done any tax planning? If you haven't, do it now. We're almost at the end of the financial year, and you should have an idea of your taxable income as a starting point. So how much income has your business made? And how much other income have you made from all other sources? You want to do this for any individual who potentially is involved in business distributions or who has some kind of impact on your business. Then you can calculate the estimated tax position for every entity. You can work out average rates of tax everyone's paying, where the income's going to be distributed. And within that, then you can start to get a bit of a schedule of payments. When will you owe tax? Who will owe tax? And how are you going to be making those payments? How does that impact you from a cash flow point of view? Once you've done all that, you can start to look at strategies that you could put in place to reduce this down. Are you going to look to prepay some expenses before the end of the year? Have you got some insurance you could pay 12 months in advance? Have you got some subscriptions that could be paid up front? Have you got your accounting fees that you could pay up front? All of these things could potentially reduce your tax position for this year, which could benefit you. Now, of course, you want to get advice from this, and hopefully your accountant has already reached out to you and spoke to you about your situation and what you could do to save tax this tax time. There are some other things you could be looking at doing, potentially deferring income to next year, depending on what your situation is going to look like next year. And have you purchased any assets throughout the year? And do you understand how they impact you tax-wise? Are they going to be taxed in the small business pool? Or are they going to be instantly written off? Or are they neither of those options? They're going to be depreciated over a number of years. You want to understand how these impact you, because the chances are, if you've gone and bought a $40,000 car, it might not just reduce your taxable income by 40 grand. And of course, a part of this, you want to understand, have you sold any assets through the year and the impact on them? And especially due to some of the rule changes we've had over the past few years, this could impact you more than you ever thought. The next thing you want to do is make sure everything is up to date. Is your reconciling up to date of your accounting software? For instance, if you use Xero, have you reconciled all your transactions? Have you started to review the balance sheet to make sure all the balances are looking correct? You want to do this now so you have an idea of where you sit, especially if you're doing tax planning. If you haven't got everything up to date, how are you going to know what your actual position is? Have you actually finished last year's tax? I know that sounds crazy, but there are some people out there that probably haven't done last year's tax, and you want to get that done ASAP, because if you can get that done before end of financial year, it puts your ATO account in good standing and it just removes that stress from you. So many people get so stressed about overdue returns, and the simplest way to do that is get them lodged. Even if you're going to owe tax, put a payment plan in place, and at least then you know where you're at. That leads into, have you done all your BASs for the year? Have you actually up to date on them? Have you done the January to March one? So the only one you've got left is April to June. Again, you're just removing stresses. And also the ATO are issuing very hefty fines, especially if you have multiple of these overdue in a row. So you definitely want to get these done on time. Now, something else you can do that is free is to join my free email newsletter. Every single week, I aim to get this newsletter out with tax tips for you guys to help you better understand your business taxes, and also some general business tips that I've found useful along my journey of growing my business. The link is in the description of this video. Now, let's get back into the video. The next one is, do you have a tax agent you can trust? How are you working with someone who's actually wanting to actively work with you to achieve the goals you're doing? The key things that I always say to clients when they come over to me is, I want to work with you to achieve what you want to achieve. If you're trying to grow your business, I'm all in. Let's grow this business. If you just want to consolidate, all right, let's just focus on doing the same thing over and over again and consolidating. We want to make sure that you're working with someone who's actually got your best interest in mind. Do they understand your industry? That is one of the key things and one of the differential points we have. We understand industries that a lot of people don't understand. You want to make sure an accountant actually understands what kind of income you're getting. How does your business actually operate? How does it make money? Because that will lead into what kind of expenses may it have. You want an accountant who can identify what expenses you may have not even realized that were claimable. You obviously want someone who's going to answer your question and who is there for you. Too many people come to me and go, my previous accountant would never get back to me. That is not acceptable. You want someone who actually will get back to you. Now, you want to understand how they charge for that, of course, and what's the best message to contact them. But you want someone who's there to answer your questions. And of course, they've got to be keeping you compliant. You want to know if the ATO knock on the door with an audit, you're going to be very confident that you're going to pass that audit. But of course, they're also saving you tax. Everyone wants to make sure they're reducing their tax as much as they can, but they want to do it in a way where it's legal and they're very confident they would pass an audit. The final area that you want to be doing this end of financial year is understanding what are your obligations. And hopefully you're working with a tax agent that can help you with this. But you need to understand, what things do I need to be doing and when do I need to be doing them? Of course, you're going to have a tax return. When is the due date of your tax return? Now, this will vary. It could be 31st of October. It could be May. but you want to understand when is my tax return due, and hopefully if you're working as an agent, when am I going to get it done? You're obviously going to have BAS returns if you're registered for GST or you've got payroll that you need to process. So when are those going to be due? Now, of course, if you do have employees, what are your obligations at end of financial year? You're going to have to finalize their single touch payroll data. Maybe you've got work cover that needs to be reconciled with your relevant organization. These things have very strict due dates and normally are one of the first things that are due in the financial year. And if you don't do it, you're probably going to have employees coming after you. Have you met all your super obligations? This is so important, and it's an area that ATO are cracking down on, rightfully so. So make sure you're getting that right. Have you got a trust, and therefore have you done a trust minutes declaration or a trustee declaration or whatever you want to call it before the end of June? Make sure you read your trust deed to find out what needs to happen, because this is going to be an incredibly costly thing if you don't do it. Something else a lot of people do like to think about at end of financial year is their structuring. Now, if you're a sole trader, in this upcoming video, I talk about sole traders and companies, which option is better and how to know when the right time is to make that switch from sole trader to company. I thank you for watching this one, and I look forward to seeing you over there.